I'd say two statistics also really stick out. In the last quarter, employment fell for young people by 156,000. For other age groups, stayed relatively stable. Young people are clearly being hit the hardest in this pandemic in the labour market. And now we have 1 in 7 young people claiming benefits, whereas before COVID hit, it was 1 in 15. So it's 1 in 7 compared to 1 in 15. We know the data is now coming through of what we originally feared. We'll have set out all the reasons for that. And Kirsty, you said, depressing, what's there to be cheerful about? And going back to the question, is mass youth unemployment inevitable? Yes, it is if we don't do more. However, there are reasons to be cheerful. The Prime Minister's #1 priority for the DWP, the Department for Work and Pensions, is youth unemployment. We know that. So there is will. We have a Minister for Employment that, she'll die in a ditch for young people, which has said that young people are her priority. We have some strong champions there. Secondly, reason to be cheerful. We know what works. There have been plenty of programs over the years. We're not starting from base zero here. We've had employment zones, new deals, flexible new deals. Kirsty, you know all of them. And we have evidence. Future Jobs Fund, you mentioned, Kevin, which the Kickstart is loosely based on. We have evidence of what works for young people, including targeted identification of those young people that need extra support, personalised support, getting good one-to-one advisors, employer focused. We know what works. So what do we need? What do we need to happen? And I think at a national, this is national and local, the challenge, the national challenge. #1, what does good look like? What are we aiming for as government? And I think, Will, you really summed it up by sort of, government is dealing with what's in front of them. And actually, for this challenge, we need to know what is success. Because the numbers of young people falling out of employment are increasing, and they're going to increase. So what are we aiming for? As a youth employment group, we sort of set government a target. I've been talking to the Department for Education, then there are people who look around neat young people. Setting a target of what we want to get back to. We set a target for October next year of getting back to pre-pandemic levels of NEET, so not in employment, educational training, young people. Going into another lockdown now, October next year seems quite quite difficult to achieve, but we're there to set government difficult targets, and we're talking about a target of what was there before the crisis. We know there was over 700,000 young people out of education, work and training before the crisis even hit. So we're just saying get back to that. In order to do that, based on previous recessions, the government would need to create 1,000 additional opportunities every day for young people. That's the scale of the challenge in front of us. We need to do a lot more. We've also set a government a target of not allowing any 18 to 24-year-old to spend more than 6 months unemployed. We know that once you hit 6 months plus long-term unemployed, getting out of long-term unemployment is so much harder, and it will cost so much more in so many different ways, as Will mentioned, the scarring effects. Basing on what works, the Prime Minister did announce an opportunity guarantee for young people in June. This was followed by the Chancellor's Kickstart and all of his economic plans in July. But if we go back to what the Prime Minister announced, an opportunity guarantee for all young people, we have to go a lot way further to make that a reality. It has to be a quality education, training or employment place for all young people. We've got lots of ideas of how to make that work, but it needs to be there, and prioritising those young people that need it most. That's really important. And evaluating whatever we're putting in, when we have to do these things quickly, and Will is absolutely right, everything is happening at breakneck speed across Whitehall. But we have to evaluate what we're doing, because we have to learn from it, and that will be valuable for future generations. So that's important. But lastly, I would just say it's not all national. It's absolutely not about what happens at the national level. It's a lot of local. And Kevin, you mentioned about what's happening. You're talking about Future Jobs Fund. How do you use the Kickstart scheme in the West Country to target those young people that most need it? We've got some data on that if you want it, for Sandwell and other places. And how do you build on what money the government is putting on the table to really wrap that around with local partners, making it local employers. We won't work without local employers. And then also the youth hubs that the Department for Work and Pensions are looking to introduce. So these youth hubs are looking to bring in young people from outside the system, outside of Job Centre. So those young people that wouldn't normally benefit from all of this support. These youth hubs can transform the landscape, but we really need, again, to set them out locally, bringing all local partners and services together. So again, a reason to be cheerful, but we've got to do it right. So it's a balance, really, I would say.
Thank you very much indeed, Sam. So just keeping